up on our breaking news, Brooke Singman of Fox News Digital has discovered exclusively that the FBI is now investigating the former CIA Director John Brennan and the former FBI Director James Comey in conjunction with the genesis of the Russia investigation. This comes after the CIA declassified last week a report into how that all came about. Let's bring in our panel to talk more about this. Annie Linsky, the White House reporter for the Wall Street Journal, USA Today White House correspondent Francesca Chambers, and Josh Holmes, co-host of the Ruthless podcast and former Chief of Staff to Senator Mitch McConnell. Annie, start us off here. The fact that the FBI is looking into Brennan and Comey now. When this declassified CIA report came out, people said, will prosecutions follow? We don't know if it'll be a prosecution, but it's an investigation at this point.
Yeah, this is certainly the logical next step from last week's news. And it does really underscore, I think, the extent to which this Russia investigation that occurred in 2017, I believe, has stayed under the president's skin and sort of in his craw. He has personally sued members of the Pulitzer board for giving a Pulitzer Prize to the Washington Post and the New York Times, kind of surrounding on this topic. So I think this sort of move fits into this broader concern that the president has about this moment.
Josh, I talked to Ratcliffe about this declassified report last week. He said, look, this is the director of analysis. This is a person who's been at the CIA through several administrations and directors. He has full faith that this is an accurate report.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously new information, but it also corroborates what many of us who've been watching this since 2016 have known all along, which is you had nefarious actors within the intelligence community that were putting their thumb on the scale. I mean, recall just a trip down memory lane. It was Brennan himself was the one who was pushing then Speaker Ryan and then Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to try to issue a statement before the 2016 election alleging Russian interference on behalf of President Trump. Now, obviously, they refused to do that, which then became a big discussion in the Comey investigation and everything else. But this is what kicked it off. It was very, very clearly an inside campaign hatched up somewhere. But these folks were in the middle of it, and I think this investigation is a long time coming.
Donald Trump insisted, Francesca, all along that there was nothing to this Russia collusion investigation. It would appear that history has proven him correct. And then you have to go back and wonder, well, how'd this all get going in the first place?
And to pick up on what Annie was saying, I mean, just today we heard the president again bring up during his cabinet meeting the Russia. So this is clearly something that he continues to be upset about. And you were talking about the last presidential campaign as well. I mean, this was something that he brought up repeatedly on the campaign trail and has talked about ad nauseum. So to Annie's point, to hear now that this is something that would be under investigation, which again, this is breaking news, is not particularly surprising.
Again, this is the beginning of an investigation. Could be a long way from a prosecution. Might never happen, but it's breaking news for us tonight. All right, let's go back to the cabinet meeting because both of you were in there today. Josh, you and I weren't.
Maybe someday.
Maybe someday.
I was last night. I was in the BB meeting last night.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. Annie was in the cabinet meeting today. But you both talked to the president. You both got good quotes from him. Steve Witkoff, very optimistic that he might get a deal on Gaza. This is Francesca's wisdom last night, along with a couple of her colleagues writing in USA Today about who would control security of Gaza if a deal is eventually struck. Netanyahu said Israel would have to retain control of security over Gaza rather than a complete state. I think the Palestinians should have all the powers to govern themselves, but none of the powers to threaten us. He said that means a certain power, like overall security, will always remain in our hands. Now, that is a fact that no one in Israel will agree to anything else because we don't commit suicide. There was some talk that Israel didn't want to get bogged down in another occupation, security or otherwise, of Gaza. Looks like that's changed.
Yeah, and Netanyahu right now, as we speak, is at the White House. I believe he's still there. We know he came in to meet again with the president to talk about Gaza. And I think what Francesca's great question last night and her reporting is showing is this framework kind of firming up around what the United States, at least, is hoping a peace deal would look like. And of course, when Witkoff today in the cabinet meeting referenced a possibility of a pause in fighting for 60 days, he was also saying he hopes it's the beginning of the absolute end of fighting, so the pause would extend.
Did you get any sense, Francesca, of how the security arrangement might work? And I mean, Hamas has got to agree to something. I don't know if they agree to their demise or how it goes, but what did you get from that?
I actually asked the president last night if he was hoping to make a deal, if he thought one could be made in the room last night, if they essentially thought that there was anything that Israel still needed to agree to in this. And the
Hả?